Okay,
Yes,
so
sure.
I think we start now. So welcome everyone to this meetup, this virtual meetup from Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust meetup at Riyadh. This is we haven't done all these for a while, so this is really exciting. And I think I have to give a lot of the praise to what we're happening now in Arabia is to your first speaker, Ali Zeindeen, who is the MD of our member, Seiyaj, which is a Saudi-based technology company. And I'm looking forward to his talk today. So I'm now going to hand over to you, Ali. Ali, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Julian. Once again, I'd like to welcome all participants and attendees. My name is Ali Zeindeen. I'm the managing director of a Saudi-based company named Seiyaj. We're mainly dedicated for emerging technology based on blockchain, from tracking and traceability for the halal, and also fractional ownership for digital assets and tokenization. I won't take long. It's going to be like 10 to 15 minutes. I prepared a general macro overview for adoption issues and challenges. Please, can you confirm you can see my screen?
We can.
Not yet. Yeah.
Thank you.
We can't see screen.
Yes,
CBDC,
now,
the future of money.
yes, we can see the screen. Yeah.
I think
Thank
Karen Otoni want to ask something because Karen is part of the Linux Foundation and doing something in CBDC, right? Julian? Hi,
Yes.
Karen. Julian, maybe can you put her in maybe panelist, I believe.
Yeah, we have to promote him as a panelist. Yeah.
Because he is leading the digital CBDC initiatives in Linux Foundation. So maybe she wanted to get involved, I think. But anyway, Ali, you can continue. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Kamal.
Yeah.
Going back to the
Hello. Thank you.
Yeah, I can.
Glad to be here. Thank you all. Excited for this topic.
Hello, Karen.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's great there.
So as a brief introduction, central bank digital currency, or the CBDC, is a new form of money that exists only in digital form. Instead of central banks.
See your screen, I think, or just 1 minute. Yeah, I can see.
Thank you.
I can see screen now. Continue.
Thank you, Candice. Once again, first of all, are all the logistics fine? Is there any issue? Loud and clear is now the presentation. You can see it all, isn't it? Very good. So the central bank digital currency, it's a new form of money that exists only in a digital form. So for the central banks, instead of printing money, the central bank issues a widely accessible digital coins so that these digital transactions and transfers becomes more and more simple. At the present situation, the central bank issues real money. It's like a sort of a banknote for the retail banks. And the retail banks, they do, or some other types of commercial banks, they do the promises and services for the end users. And here will come if I were to call the traditional disruption of the banking sector, where the CBDC comes as an introduction between the central banking system and the users in a direct way, while issuing tokens instead of paper. The 6 pillars of the central bank digital currency is that it's centralized, it's government controlled, it shows trust, financial transactions based on blockchain and the digital currency. The way we see it, there are around 8 benefits for the central bank digital currency. As you can see on my screen, it enhances financial inclusions. It increases efficiency. It promotes cashless economy. It boosts payment innovation. It curbs money laundering. And we'll talk in a bit about the IMF. It lowers operational costs. CBDC enhances security and fraud detection, in addition to simplifying securities and settlements between tenders. The key findings. There are around 7 or 8 key findings First of all, the global adoption. Around more than 100 countries and currency unions representing around 98% of the global GDP are exploring CBDC. So CBDC is a fact. It's no more just a theory for implementation. The G20 country, every G20 country is exploring CBDC, within 19 of them in the advanced stages of this exploration. There has been launched 4 CBDC projects. There are ongoing, there's a new high of 44 ongoing CBDC pilots, including digital euro. When it comes to BRICS, all original BRICS members from Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa are piloting in CBDC. We'll talk about the CBDCR, which is for the retail. Regarding USA is now participating in a cross-border wholesale CBDC project. It's named Agora, with the 6 major banks. This is happening while we're speaking now. And the 8th finding regarding the sanctions following the situation between Russia and Ukraine and the G7 sanctions response, cross-borders wholesale CBDC projects has been doubled. There are 2 types of CBDC. There's the retail and the wholesale. For the retail, it's mainly focused for all types of businesses, private sectors, non-financial institutions, customers, and regular businesses. When the other type is the wholesale, which is CBDC-W, that's mainly focused for the financial institutions and the central banks. As you see from this screen, there's almost a global recognition for the central bank digital currency. Most of the countries are even in a research state, proof of concept, piloting, or even some of the countries have already launched their central bank digital currency projects. Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Bahamas, and Jamaica, these 4 countries has already projects in place and running. Recent studies show that around 24 countries will be live by 2030. Regarding the hyperledger, Fabric Besu versus the public blockchain. When it comes to the difference, if I were to say the ads, some of the technical people would see some of these pros and cons. However, when it comes to the differentiation between the hyperledger formerly or the Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust now, namely when it comes to the authority, Fabric and Besu are partially decentralized, whereas the public blockchain is decentralized. When it comes to the access, Fabric and Besu gives full access as for the government, whereas blockchain open does not. It's open access for everyone. Regarding the transactions per second, it's faster in Fabric and Besu, whereas it's a bit slower. Although this is controversial, but facts has said that the TPS in open blockchain is becoming slower. The consensus mechanism, it's permissioned in Fabric and Besu, where it's permissionless in open blockchain. The transaction cost is lower in the Fabric and Besu. The data handling for the real data assets, it's available for the governance in Fabric and Besu, whereas in public blockchain networks, it's available for everyone. This is also a controversial point. When it comes to the immutability, it's partial, whereas it's full immutable in blockchain, in the public blockchain, and the efficiency is way higher than in the public blockchain. That's why, coming back to this screen, you'll find most of the projects for the central bank digital currency are based on Fabric or Besu. There has been several projects parallel going from Jura to DDash to Ambridge to Agora, as mentioned in the United States, to digital euro, and also in China for the ICHN. I'll take like 1 minute just to dig deep within one of the project, which is called the Ambridge project. This is becoming more a very promising project. The use case we're seeing here is made up of 3 stakeholders. There's a Thai corporate who want to buy some Chinese from raw materials from a Chinese supplier, and they have to deliver to the Hong Kong client. So the Thai corporate initially, this is a 10-step process. So the Thai corporate initiate a purchase of raw materials for the Chinese supplier. Then it issues a letter of credit, an LC for the Chinese bank, central bank, the shipment of raw materials from the Chinese supplier to the Thai corporate, then the payment from this Thai with a forex exchange conversion from the Thai central bank to the Chinese central bank, then a partial conversion to the Chinese and remit funds to supplier. After this financial transactions has been secured, the seventh step is that the Thai corporate has to do the sales and shipment of finished goods to the Hong Kong, the client in Hong Kong, where he or she would do the payment for the Hong Kong central bank, and the payment and the forex exchange between the Hong Kong and Thai goes in place, and the partial conversion for that and remit funds to the corporate. If you can see here, Ambridge is playing a sort of a focal point between central banks. That's why Ambridge project is aimed to explore a multi-central bank digital currency CBDC platform shared among participating central banks and commercial banks, built on distributed ledger DLT to enable instant cross-border payments and settlements. Challenges, adoptions, recommendations, and this sort of a comparison. When it comes to the challenges, central bank digital currency projects, they do face certain challenges from cyber risk, so because they are susceptible to enormous transactions enabled by complex applications. When it comes to the payments, there might be a difficulty in payment credentials, especially in the identity access management, and several startups are rising at this horizon. There's a sort of possibility for illicit use because countries may struggle with money laundering, tax avoidance, or loss of domestic oversight capabilities, as these are real concerns for the central banks to maintain over control of every transaction. One of the challenges for the central bank digital currency project is the lack of, or the possible lack of data privacy, which is retained by the loss of ability to transact anonymously, because central banks would store these transactions that lead to a minimal level, if I were to say, when it comes to the data privacy for between the merchant, corporate, or the end users. Run on banks could reduce commercial bank deposit, because when CBDC, if I were to say to overcome the traditional banks, these banks wouldn't be able to provide the traditional loans, and they will lack that ability. Displacement of some central bank digital currencies. As with traditional systems, central bank digital currencies issued by and developed by these developed companies and economies may become widespread in a recipient economy and displace the domestic currency in a financial transaction. This is a major issue, especially when it comes to one of the talks in the United Nations, that lacking economies for the wide adoption of technical infrastructure might lag behind for the successful implementation of CBCD in the developing countries. That's why the International Monetary Fund developed a sort of a framework or a model for that adoption. The IMF framework entails regulatory strategies, communication initiatives, design choice, and incentive mechanisms that central banks can use to facilitate the CBDC adoption. They call it READY model. The R stands for the regulation, education, design and development, deployment, and incentives. Whereas actually, if we were to go at the deep of that, it's truly not about only having a technical layer. The main challenges goes about the policy layers that needs catching up. The major issue lie not on the technical side, but on the policy side. That's because we might find that every central bank, they tend to create a sort of a subjective standardization. And here where some international well-recognized financial institutes like IMF can play a very important role to have a common standardization for the whole CBDC projects worldwide. Recommendations from IMF is to get more and more engagement from the stakeholders, from banks, fintechs, financial technology companies, and users, build a better design and development right, architecture sustainable models. For the intermediary incentives and end user incentives, and to promote regulation clarity on digital money. This is a bit of a slide for a comparison for the CBDC features against other digital currencies and also traditional fiat. So if you can look with me at the left side, there's a traditional fiat from traditional central banks and deposits with the cash. On the right side is the traditional crypto. You can see here that the CBDC exactly fits as a central point that can give the central banks a sort of high liability legal tenders and convertible per reverses banknotes, whereas it depends on every central bank to promote and allocate explicitly their interest rate, their electronic transactions, and the global access if they would like have it maybe locally, nationally, or even internationally. Finally, CBDC, as said earlier, it's a token. It's an ownership associated with a digital signature. So it gains or inherits all the good characteristics of traditional cryptocurrencies. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Ali. So any question from anyone, you can ask in the chat. So there's a question from Blessing Hamisi. So I'm just allowing him to talk. I think where he went. Okay, and yeah, Anthony, now you can speak.
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me. I just wanted to ask among the CBDC project, which one is the most achieved and the most practical?
As this is not a marketing presentation for any of these projects, but you can get some hint why I choose Ambridge. These guys are having a huge potentials. There has been some challenges at the level of security, but it has been things are going good for these. They have already created the better version of this project, and so much to be done yet. If I were to add the Ambridge main lead, I think he's one. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kamlesh. He's in the Central Bank of Canada. I think he's managing the central bank or an executive of the Central Bank of Canada. Yes.
Yeah, there are a couple of central banks out there and run initiative of BIS and MAS Singapore.
Very true. So by now, I think I should, if that's fine, if no more questions, I would like to give the mic for Mr. Lohar. I'll stop sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, Prasanna, over to you. So Prasanna is a global leader, especially in fintech and banking in India. He's advisor and work with a couple of Indian banks and keep deeply involved in the Indian CBDC project and we're doing interesting stuff in India. So he will share like how he will see the CBDC as a changing digital tokenization in the industry.
Am I visible? I thought it's a it's
Yes,
a
Mr. Lohar.
panel discussion, so I have not opened up my deck. But full-fledged, I think it's a great momentum when we look at the future of finance around the world and overall the global key result area. How can we bring on every citizen on this world on a better financial inclusion? Where, as per I think Findex or Financial Inclusion Index, a couple of years back, I think 1 billion people still do not have banking accounts, or even if they earn $1 or $2 a day, they don't have a facility to open account and really manage their funds. I think financial inclusion is a global criteria, and looking forward, the overall momentum which has started in some of the smaller countries like Ecuador or some more, who has Bahamas, who has come up with their own CBDCs initially. I think today it's good to see that more than 100 countries working on a CBDC agenda. And apart from individually how they are working on their, we have seen such a nice presentation by Mr. Ali. Just leveraging that presentation, would like to have some of my thoughts around global momentum. 100 plus countries working on the CBDC. Around 11 plus countries are almost live or at pilot mode on a retail as well as a wholesale CBDC. More than 20 projects under a bank international settlement working and testing it out, interoperability and the scalability of the various projects. We heard about mBridge in the presentation now. I think in Indian context, I given my first master class on central bank digital currency back in 2020 July at RBI's college called as NIBM. And that moment, regulators were present, and we have seen in 22 February as a part of a financial budget, our Honorable Finance Minister Sitaraman has announced now we are going to come up with a e-rupee kind of a digital currency, which is resonating the legal tender for India. And in September, we have seen rise of a wholesale CBDC with 4 banks coming together on a pilot. Followed by in October or November, we had seen 5 more banks on a retail CBDC. So today there are around 16 banks who are dwelling around the proof of concept pilot in a central bank digital currency on a retail side. And as we have seen in the presentation, CBDC could be retail as well as wholesale, which is for bank to bank, or retail is for people like us. But first important step for any of the CBDC implementation is almost policy. How strong monetary policies are there in that country. So that way, when we look at Reserve Bank of India, which is a central bank for India, and the monetary policies are very strong. While they are very strong, it's a different currency, which is digital currency. We need to look at various rules, regulation, controls who will resonate with the digital currency. We can't go for interest rates, for example, on those CBDCs. I think that on those lines, the current CBDC, which is built in India on the current railroads, India is well equipped with some of those railroads, or we call it as a DPS, digital public infrastructure. We have our own identity ecosystem backed by Aadhaar or UIDAI. We have a payment DPI, which is a UPI. I think having, and it's a huge momentum. Every bank who is part of this POC pilot has their own mobile banking or appetite to build their own wallets. So on those lines, I think the 16 banks has come up together and utilize those existing railroads to onboard new customers. And these wallets are top up with the help of a UPI. While we are starting with a UPI, but tomorrow savings account, credit cards or debit cards will be always linked with this kind of ecosystem. On the implementation side, second important aspect is to go with a centralized or decentralized architecture. So considering this, I think we have chosen Hyperledger, and I think more than 95% worldwide, the first choice is a Hyperledger, considering enterprise blockchain and many other facilities like in the integration with the existing financial ecosystem and various other subsystems, and integration with many components like HSFs and others. I think Hyperledger resonates for any of those CBDC implementations in any country. And third angle, which is like whether to go with a token or account based. So ours is a token based CBDC. And to bring on, what we have did, we have created similar anonymous ecosystem, like what we have denominations. The similar denominations which we have in paper currency, we have utilized in a wallet also. And lastly, the use case, primarily wholesale bank to bank use case is going well. And on the retail side, we have seen peer-to-peer payment. Many banks are doing a lot of promotions so that their employees as well as their customers who are selected. Initially, it was selected customers who were part of these pilots, but now it is open for every customer of those banks who are a pilot bank. It is still in pilot in the last 2 years, and looking at what more and many more use cases. I think what Mr. Ali spoke, right? I think one of the challenge, how success of a CBDC will bring on, it all depends upon the use cases. While cross-border pay or bank-to-bank secure settlements are known use cases, the final adoption with the citizens or end users The country like India, where the UPI is already promoted as a digital instruments, but there are many countries where UPI or Aadhaar-like ecosystems are not there. There, I think, first use case is all about peer-to-peer or merchant-to-person payments. In Indian context, I think banks are looking for many use cases. Imagine one of the bank like IndusInd has done subsidy to the farmers for against their carbon emissions. It's built on their CBDC. One of the state government, Orissa, has done DBT programs for women entrepreneurs in Orissa. Likewise, many of those use cases are coming. Union Bank of India has incentivized internal employees to have their some kind of a food coupons on the CBDCs. I think large logos like Samsung would like to bring on a CBDC into their Samsung wallet, I think use cases will drive. Where we have reached as of now, the way we understand externally on the CBDC, we need to figure out overall architectural aspects, scalability aspects for a CBDC. Secondarily, important like offline payments, how we can build an offline payment as an ecosystem. As a part of RBI or as a part of government, there is some change requests are done on the UPI to make it is UPI wallet. UPI light kind of a wallet where we can have some transactions under 1000 INR can be done offline way. Similarly, I think we'll ride on the same infrastructure to do some kind of offline CBDC experimentation. RBI, Reserve Bank of India, has opened up a Harbinger hackathon for many external players. Where we have seen players like Crunchfish and IDMIA has done some good momentum to do offline CBDCs. IDMIA along with Airtel Payments has done some experimentations. IDFC Banks has done something around with the Crunchfish. While we talk about scalability and the offline nature, another important aspect for a CBDC is a programmable money. Are we providing the money to the CBDC wallets, and whether that is being utilized based upon what we are programmed for? Is it that DBT which we are given it to farmer, is he utilizing only for fertilizers or not? I think that kind of a programmable currency and relevant use cases are picking up in an Indian context. Third, last most important aspect is the anonymous nature of a CBDC or a privacy, how to keep that privacy. That was another problem statement which the Reserve Bank of India has opened up as a part of their Harbinger hackathon. And I think the way NPCI is driving internally and externally for the CBDC momentum, and a lot of work is happening on the monetary policies. Many banks individually looking at onboarding new use cases. I think on those lines, I'm sure we will have one of those best implementation, the way we had a UPI as one of the best payment or Aadhaar. On those existing railroads, we will see good incentives around the CBDC and could resonate to a need of many other countries how to build the best CBDC implementation. Nevertheless, while we talk about the functional aspects, non-functional aspects like security, the scalability plays major role as far as India is concerned. India today, where UPI operates with a 25,000 TPS, CBDC is beyond payment. It will be part of a wealth. It will be part of a insurance. It will be part of a many other regulators who are in India. So while we talk only around payments, I think CBDC, which is a which is a digital currency, will be having multiple use cases. With CBDC coming in today, we have savings or current or some of those loan types of instruments. With CBDC in future, we will find many more financial products coming in. One of them, which I could see that in Punjab, we provide the payment back to the farmers with the RuPay cards that can be completely driven by the CBDC ecosystem in Punjab. Or similarly, in Maharashtra, sugarcane, or in South, in Kerala, we have wheat, and in the Gujarat, we have milk. So I'll not be surprised over a period of time with the right regulation, we come up with some of those stable coins, maybe milk coin or some more coins, which are having same value of e-rupee. And that will bring on many more use cases. I think opportunity is huge, being it's a big play. It's a complete momentum or movement of a paper currency to the digital currency, where we are going to do away with a lot of disadvantage like printing currency, managing currency, and overall operations cost around that. It will come down, but as we have heard in the last presentation by Mr. Ali, monetary policies are going to play a major role. And it's not something like we'll implement and it is going to go live in the next few months or year. I think every country will take its own time to really test out all the parameters, all the functional, non-functional, organizational, or operational and financial parameters, so that they should have a very good successful implementation in their own countries. And as well as apart from having a good implementation in their country, they would look at how can we bring a standardization, so-called interoperability. For example, India is working on Hyperledger and some other countries working on another blockchain protocol. How can we create cohesive interoperable standards or a protocol so that those integrations for a cross-border payment are very easy? So I think while every country is working on their own playground, it makes sense every country should collaborate with their nearing country or friend country where they can paste out all these parameters around many use cases. And good to see that how Bank International Settlement is working closely with many such projects around the world. Recently, I had visited Singapore Fintech Festival and seen practical demos of some of these experimentation which is happening. And good to see that it's like in COVID, we had seen how world has come together on a global health index. And I think CBDC is bringing on a complete world together on a financial index. It's a good momentum. The various bodies like IMF, BIS, and EUs and every country, they are driving it in a better manner. But as we have seen how IMF keeps addressing or guiding many countries, look at those non-functional long-term aspects, so-called interoperability, so-called standardization. I think it's a high time for countries to work on those global agenda as a global agenda to have a better global currencies as a part of CBDCs. Now, while we talk about CBDC, while we talk about the stable coins, it will resonate to the digital asset industry. Now, while I had said in my talk now, while we had existing products, certainly we will see many more financial products as a part of our digital asset tokenization or real world asset tokenization. And as and when this asset tokenization industry will come and will ask any those opportunities to custody those assets or custody those digital assets. So I think the role of bank is going to be very, very crucial. A bank being a trusted entity, they would always look forward these digital assets pegged by their relevant CBDCs. I think bringing money, raising money, liquidity, many other those aspects where many countries keep struggle, will be able to do this cross-border payment easily with the CBDCs. Buying some land or buying some real estate sitting in India, in Dubai, it will be easy provided India and Dubai talks on a very good CBDC interoperable currency kind of ecosystems. So I think that will open up global market heavily. While today it's a good market, but many use cases like trade finance or letter of credit, asset tokenization, and all the cross-border payment, those will be very easy. Today we spend a lot as operational efforts around these use cases. So in a nutshell, when we talk about blockchain and the country level use cases, I think in April 2024, BIS along with Nandanji has announced some concept like Finternet. And in my view, Finternet has a capability to get executed on some of those financial use cases like settlement or bank to other interbank settlement or bank to vendor settlement or one bank in India to another bank outside of India. So I think those use cases be possible to implement with called Finternet. So as a India Blockchain Forum, we have some groups or a special interest group around asset tokenization CBDC, where many players, tech player as well as experts do come together and create relevant guidelines and relevant ecosystem per se. At FSV Lab, which is a part of our FSV Capital, where we look forward how we can create some of those standalone prototypes or applications on CBDC. So last 2 years, we have built that capability so that while we see how implementation is happening in India on the CBDC, we can resonate our experience for many other smaller countries under Hyperledger ecosystem. And we are confident our experience will really help some of those existing implementations also. So because the CBDC is a long-term game, it's not something that we will build and deploy and the things will be on. CBDC demands better security. CBDC demands better scalability. CBDC demands ongoing maintenance and ongoing support. At all levels, we are spearheading and guiding many of our tech players. There are at least 10, 12 tech players who are working closely with many other banks. So looking forward, how our experience will helpful for this path-breaking financial inclusion ecosystem. And great to be part of this this session this evening. And for sure, our experts like Mr. Ali, thank you so much for your presentation. It must have delighted many of our viewers. And look forward how our experience will always keep adding the global collaboration. So thank you, Mr. Kamlesh and Mr. Julian, for inviting me here for this wonderful talk. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lohar. Actually, I do have a question. I've heard from several people leading several projects in CBDC that one of the key challenges, although it hasn't been addressed in the presentation, neither the talk, it's the information technology, the IT infrastructure, the cabling, the fiber optics. So do you think, especially when it comes to the cross borders, countries can implement the appropriate technical, physical infrastructure to handle such a complicated solution?
Yes, I think just to support, there are many design guidelines has come up to do better design of the CBDC. And as you guided in your presentation, it's all about monetary policies. I think technology is a secondary while blockchain is a new. We'll always see how blockchain can scale. And it's a matter of fact, you can always scale. And we know some of the resources in our current implementation, they have done more than 20K as far as the scalability is concerned. But it's not only around scalability, but on a day-to-day basis, how do we do the settlement and reconciliation? In combination of many other technical areas, like where we are implementing, on which cloud, are we following the architecture, like are we on a Docker or Kubernetes? I think it's that way we'll be able to have a successful implementation. Another aspect, as you rightly said, the security. Because at a country level, if something goes wrong, if you are not configuring those smart contracts or keys or integrations with the existing system, and if there are gaps, and if these gaps are visible in front of the hackers or so-called fraudsters, and it will be an havoc. Right? Imagine they get into the system and do the. So I think that is why most of the countries are doing proof of concepts and pilots. So very, very important aspect for successful CBDC is that the test cases. What type of a test is the coverage of the test cases is at all level, functional as well as the technical, non-functional as well as the security. So in my view, while we have seen many countries has a challenging implementation to begin with on the monetary policies, like Bahamas has not has offered interest on the CBDCs, they have to revert back, or he has seen some rework has happened in IRA in Nigeria also. And the how to do the adoption, right? So apart from technical building of the CBDC, we need to see how it can be adopted with the right use cases. Some countries may not have the payment ecosystem at all. If they're directly jumping on to the real-time payment on CBDC, will have a larger success. Like we have seen 50% adoption at Cambodia with their fast ecosystem. But I think while there are many areas for adoption, but larger adoption area is I look at the technology and how are we building that tech stack. It should be very foolproof first time right, and it should have many other rules and controls. How do we have a redundancy if something goes wrong? How can we really take care of that? The scalability, daily maintenance. In beginning, I think we'll have to run both systems in parallel, paper as well as digital currency. So I think on those lines, whenever these kind of best practices are adopted, I think we'll have a better implementation. At a FSP and India Blockchain Forum, we have created our own set of best practices for a CBDC. Happy to share, or maybe happy to work on together and see how we can publish that again in front of the world. And I'm not saying it is the final. It is an evolution process. We keep on improvising and keep on doing better work that will help us to build better CBDC implementations. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Prasanna. So, any more question? I think Karen is joined. So, Karen is actually lead the tokenization CBDC initiative at the Linux Foundation. Karen, do you want to share something? What you're doing? Because I remember the CBDC ebook which released last I think last year. Something is new also coming out there.
Sorry for the interruption. I think it would be great if Karen can introduce herself also.
Yeah,
If that's fine.
yeah, Karen.
Hi, my name is Karen. I'm based in Washington, D.C. And I'm the Senior Director of Ecosystem and Strategic Initiatives at LF Decentralized Trust. And what that means is I manage our member community, our member engagement, a lot of our events and workshops, as well as some key topics that are happening in our ecosystem, such as CBDCs. And so what I've done and what our team has done is really focus on making information easily digestible and available about who is doing what with our technologies. And so we did this by publishing a CBDC ebook. We published a newer version earlier this year, and I'm currently working along with Julian as well on updating it, expanding it into a new version that we will publish in January. In addition to that, our team engages a lot with central banks, helping them understand the space, helping them understand our technologies. And also more broadly, open source and how open source can be relevant for this use case. Using a lot of banks already use open source technologies, and are in various areas of government, but in the central banks generally, not all, but generally kind of haven't had too much experience in engaging open source communities. So there's a lot of conversations we have around that as well. We've done a number of talks and presentations at BIS. We've engaged a lot with BIS. We've done talks at Point Zero Forum, various different events to how open. An open source strategy is something that central banks should keep in mind as a key advantage in exploring this use case, both in leveraging the knowledge base that the whole ecosystem has, reducing costs, innovating faster, increased transparency, increased security, which is actually not something that central banks typically expect when they think of opening up, but that's the argument that we make. And there's a lot of central banks who are using our technologies, but actually also getting to the point where they may want to also contribute openly as well. And that's something we encourage.
Fantastic, Karen. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. So any more question from audience attendees? I think we have another 10 minutes. We can take at least 2-3.
I can ask a question. Shall I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I think what Karen says is there actually There is so much activity. I went to the Singapore FinTech Festival, the Hong Kong FinTech Festival. All the central banks are now talking about CBDC. Also, we're looking at the whole aspect of stable coins as well. And I think one of the areas that I think that Prasanna brought up is this interoperability, or this the ledgers like the Finternet and GL1. I wondered, Prasanna, have you got any more, kind of thoughts on that? I mean, what are your thoughts, re how we're going to be doing interoperability between these different uh, between these different areas?
Yeah, so I think interoperability is not a blockchain challenge.
Yeah.
There are a lot of I have seen in my view. It's a communication channel how we can do between two data ledgers. Say example between R3 or between Hyperledger. At RBI Innovation Hub, last year we had done some kind of these connectors with the help of local players, as well as we had created one company 3 years back with the vision that interoperability is going to be a very good business problem to solve. But it was before time. But now it's a high time to really see how we can solve these problems. I think the way RBI has announced for anonymity of CBDC as well as for scalability, I think for interoperability per se, we look forward how these hackathons can help to identify some solutions around. When you keep CBDC aside, we have seen many projects in our current project also where we had created those relays or bridges between two blockchains. And I think on the same line, we need to see how standardization can come between two countries. And I think some of these projects like mBridge and Iceberg, and there are many more. I think one of the focus is around how to have a better interoperable CBDC. I think on those lines, we'll be able to see how we can have a better interoperability. Now, coming back to the Finternet, I think it's at concept level as of now. While Finternet was always there as a part of a DeFi, but I think use cases, financial use cases, where we can do with a lot of operational gaps. Imagine IBDIC, which is the Indian Bank Digital Infrastructure Company, working with some banks and local another regulated entity, so-called NBFCs, which are meant for only lending. Between banks and NBFCs and their partners, so that the suppliers are incentivized against that invoice, and there are a lot of gaps. So such use cases where financial transactions are involved, I think CBDC can play a major role, and we may call it as one of the use cases of Internet. Likewise, handling paper currency today, which is wherein banks are involved with cash-based reconciliations. So those kind of reconciliations will go away when digital currency will come into picture. Today, thousands of INR are into suspense account for a large bank like PNB or SBI, just because of these operational gaps. Tomorrow, imagine everything is happening with the money movement in digital way. I think we'll be able to save a lot of money, and the way study says, the GDP of India will go maybe 3% more, just because of the better CBDC and better handling of the money. But to come back, interoperability is a major play. But as I see, it's not a challenge. The challenge for interoperability is to bringing countries together around the world and creating those technical railroads and making those technical railroads as a standard. Maybe as a part of a BIS, which is already happening. But globally, we need to come and see those standards available so that implementation partners can refer those standards. Example, in Hyperledger, we see many such projects like Cactus, which we had seen, which is an interoperable utility, and you can guide more on that. I likewise, if it is open to the ecosystem and community, they can value add for any of those interoperability projects where majority implementation we see on Hyperledger can talk to many other existing another ledger systems. But it's happening. The pace is quite good. And to my knowledge, apart from interoperability, other two areas are very important: offline and the privacy. How can we create and there also some solutions are available where we are working. But again, we have to test it out, do proof of concept, scale it, and say, yeah, it is a widely accepted solution for us. Yeah.
Suppose there's a question in the chat, like from Submalan here, like, what do you think of incumbents for cross-border operation like SWIFT and their role in the evolving ecosystem, especially from cross-border perspective?
So I think SWIFT, which is a widely accepted ecosystem, and they have taken their own time to evolve and bring as a consortium many countries' banks. And they have a larger advantage if they revamp their technical architecture. And we have seen how SWIFT has done recent proof of concept pilots on Hyperledger and other ecosystems. But I think they have a good advantage in the sense already adoption is already has done. And today the SWIFT has a lot of challenges. The way we see as a end user, sometimes it take 3 days or 7 days for actual remittance. If they try bringing on doing some proof of concept pilots between some countries out of those hundreds of countries where they work with, I think they have a larger advantage to do a better job. Now, only thing is they would like to do as a standalone or as in a collaboration with other ecosystems like BIS that will prove their long-term success. Today, we could see they are doing a lot of experimentation in silos the way we see externally. But I think collaboration with some of the international bodies will help them to do a better job. I think they are at a good position to have a larger adoption of a wholesale CBDCs and relevantly backed for retail CBDCs, how they are integrating with the local banking ecosystem. For example, Reserve Bank of India, if they integrate with NPCI and other countries and try it out there as an experimentation, I think they act as a hub for interoperability. So I think that's what I say. Technically, interoperability has a lot of solutions, but only thinking how do we bring on the banks and the relevant regulators coming together and say this is a widely accepted standard. Let's go for it. But in a nutshell, Kamlesh, SWIFT has a larger advantage, provided they take advantage of a technology and advantage of their consortium, which they have built since last years together, and create larger ecosystem with the right experimentation and various success criteria which are involved in a CBDC. Yeah.
Okay. And there's another question like from Pranav, how is the RBI in India planning to take the effect of CBDC on its banking industry?
I think Mr. Ali and everybody speaks about the policy, right? If you have a right policies, and if you minutely watch RBI's website, so-called Reserve Bank RBI.org.in, and whenever the CBDC implementation started happening, they had done many more meetings around monetary policies, and they keep doing it. Now, good to see that Mr. Shaktikanta ji has retired, but now the next governor who is coming with a lot of background from policy from a finance ministry, I think we will have views on these areas, and RBI or our central banks always being recognized as one of the top strong monetary policy creators. The effect of a CBDC is a little challenging because we already have a UPI, which is a payment method. People need to understand UPI is a payment method and the CBDC is a complete infrastructure building exercise. Banks or RBI should not push the end user to do the transactions on CBDC. In my view, in my personal view, banks should focus on wholesale CBDC, where there are a lot of use cases between bank to bank, bank to their partners, or DBTs for a retail CBDC. If you focus on that, and eventually many other countries will create their own experimentation, over a period of time, it's going to be a backbone of managing currency. And that's how I look at it for a long-term basis rather than short-term making noise, why it is not happening and so on. Ultimately, the way we had seen history of money, we come from that barter ecosystem and coins and paper money. Digital currency is a way forward for a digital era, where we will have a marketplaces doing transactions rather than mobile or internet banking backed ecosystem. And marketplaces, the transactions are going to be very heavy, real time. It's not human beings are going to do transactions, but there are other entities like vehicles, IoT devices, smart parking, and many more other methods are going to do those transactions. And relevantly, we will evolve with the many more products. This insurance and the dynamic insurance will be governed by the how we are driving those cars or vehicles. Automatically, that kind of a payment will need. And I think that time this blockchain-backed CBDC will be useful. And good to see that experimentation is already happening now. So it's not RBI or at some of those central banks. It's the customer experience. We had seen customer going in branches in 80s, 90s. We had seen customer utilizing mobile apps in early 2010 and now. If you look at 2040, 2050, I think that moment we don't have any chance without CBDC or that kind of ecosystem. So I think world is moving forward for that global financial inclusion where it's not only opening account but managing those money, utilizing that money and moving that money back to the bank. So that kind of a momentum, how can we manage without operations, much of operations without manning between? I think that time, I think we will look at any automated system. So that's the infrastructure, CBDC infrastructure we are building. So let's look at more on wholesale to begin with, and let's look at retail. I think many countries are already on a real-time payment, which will have an advantage, but there are many countries who are looking forward to how to be built. There we have to practice more on retail and a global cohesive interoperable approach where BIS is guiding or IMF is guiding, and we need to keep eye on that. So that's a global game. It's not while RBI or every central bank doing it, but I think that kind of cohesive approach we need to look at it. Yeah, yeah.
I think Anthony want to ask something. Yeah, hi Anthony.
Yes, thank you so much. It's quite interesting. And I wanted to ask you two questions. One, and the first is about what is, in your opinion, the best technical approach towards interoperability? Because you have described interoperability as a matter of global governance for central banks to align on maybe some of the best standards. But let's say if central banks are starting to work on different protocols, like what is the technical options for interoperability? We have seen this in crypto. For instance, in Binance has proposed some standard that will enable interoperability as this is working at the moment. Cross-chain or enabling trade cross-chain. So would that be an option to use similar approaches for interoperability for CBDC? And the second part is more about taking the assumption that CBDC could be also a good way for central bank and for states to regain some sort of policy approach in DeFi, enabling a new means of actions for traders, of payment for people involved in DeFi. And that would be an assumption that I would like to bring to your esteemed panel for a little bit of discussion and maybe fact check if that makes sense on your hand as well. Thank you.
Yeah, Prasanna, this question to you actually.
Yeah, I think as I answered in the previous question also, and it's a long question, so I'll try to go step by step. On interoperability per se, I think while I answered some time back, while there are better methods between, there are some bridges which many companies are creating. I think interoperability play a major role when two countries, like there are many projects which are going on around the world. I think those projects will decide how the interoperability will happen between countries, like we have seen between Cambodia or Singapore and Canada, or there is Project Jasper, Project Mbridge, and there are many more, right? I think while there are many tech players who will keep on building their relays bridges, but I think these projects will give a lot of a standardization for interoperability between the two countries. I think that's how I look at it. Other part, which DeFi, we had seen DeFi adoption and maybe a good valuation market share, maybe around almost 50 billion back in 2020. But after a lot of up and downs in digital or crypto industry, many of those DeFi companies has vanished and gone. But with CBDC coming into picture, those DeFis will have a better regulations around that. And as I said, CBDC will bring many more financial models for doing peer-to-peer payment or payment between peer to merchant, merchant back to peer, or bank to their vendors and partners. I think that's what I said, the internet or DeFi, which is a regulated way. I think CBDC brings that infrastructure, right? Infrastructure for all these actors and players. That's why that's how I look at it, Kamlesh. But to support, yes, what we had lack in DeFi, wherein we have seen most of the DeFi were operated on Ethereum and similar kind of cryptocurrencies. With CBDCs coming into picture, definitely we will have a better models and better controls, better guidelines, better regulations for same DeFi models.
Yeah, thank you. So there are some questions I already answered in the chat. So I think we can type up if something is not there. Or any question?
Okay, I've got one quick question.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
so where do you think open source technology, I'm biased, right? Where do you think open source technology and collaboration is important for us to do this, you know, at a kind of global level? Where do you see that?
No, oh yeah, I think that's a best way to look at because we are at early stage. Before we monetize on any of those technical components, it's good to see that we open up as an open source and practice it out. While some countries will say this is what we have tested, and let that particular component be nurtured with the open source industry. That's what I was about to say. There are many products or areas and these project like Cactus or similar projects, we should see many more projects to come on that line. Now, like I have seen how we got more than 20-30 solutions at RBI as a part of Harbinger hackathons. So they had received the way we see in public information more than 3,000 entries for interoperability or scalable or privacy of a blockchain. Similarly, if you open up this global momentum around the world, which we see it keeps happening at BIS or IMF or even at LFDT, where if we announce and see how can we bring that support from various developers or development community around the world. Never know, we find many more good path-breaking projects be part of that ecosystem. Not directly, but indirectly, we can always have a good evaluation structure to select and look forward for any of those problem statement, like how do we build consent mechanism for mitigating that privacy part of our CBDCs or interoperable part of the CBDCs and offline part of the CBDCs. And I think these problem statements and the solutions around that problem statement, if it is coming from open source, definitely we can look at the next angle, how to monetize for after detailed productizing those technical components. Yeah, but it's a good view, Julian. I think that way we'll be able to fast track this momentum. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I think we've gone over time, right?
Yeah. You know,
A lot of interest there.
who asked something? Okay. Thank you. Thank you from Ali. Ali is going for other meeting. Yeah, thank you. So I think we
Thank
can
you.
Yeah, I say thank you. I think Kamlesh for helping organize this. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you,
Sana
Kamlesh.
for your great
Thank
talk.
you,
Ali
Julian.
for his great talk. And
Yeah,
of
I
course,
think
most importantly, the audience for listening. And thank you for partaking and asking some great questions. I think this has been a great meetup, and I hope to see many more. So this is a topic that I see a lot of interest in.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Just to
Thanks for
support
joining.
Julian, I think we had seen a lot of questions,
Yeah.
and this question, if it comes out as a paper or answers for this question or as some part of components, I think that will give a lot of a tangible output as of this series. So thanks, Kamlesh and Julian, for bringing out this session in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Kamlesh, we're going to finish?
Yeah, finish. I think we can
All right.
stop.
Thank you, everybody. Take care, everybody. Cheers. Bye.